This is Kevin Barnett's Build Stuff.
This is what it looks like. It's a mess, frankly.
Not your typical BS.
I've got plans. Let's go through it right now.
Chipped off the inside of the beat.
I'm Kevin Barnett. Let's BS.
Welcome inside, everybody. I guess we're going here. Episode 2, Kevin Barnett, the maker in charge here. Thanks for coming back to Build Stuff. We've included new tech today at no charge to you. So we're hoping that episode 2 takes a big leap over episode 1. A lot of what we have for you today, some of the same features. We will have our world of makers, a couple of different people checking in from all throughout the world of those that are doing it either professionally or on the side. Also, we have Drew Oxford. Here's a guy down in Georgia, as it turns out. We'll spend a few minutes with him. He goes to a ton of craft fairs. That's where he started. I call them crap fairs sometimes, but we didn't tell Drew that. But he goes to a ton of craft fairs, and he does a lot of turning at those as well as making other things. He has a terrific shop down in Georgia that he just built, and he's building a new house. All great topics that we will talk about. Also on today's episode, we do have another quick build for you. Our fast project today is coasters. And some of you at home just went, oh, coasters, they're so lame, they're so easy. You know what? Coasters are as easy or as complex as you want them to be. As easy or as complex as the tools you have. As complicated or as simple as your skills take you. That's the beauty of coasters. You can do so much different art on them. Let me give you a few examples. This is oak, and that's burning. And that's with a soldering iron. That's a tool from last time, all right? Here is epoxy and maple. Pardon me, walnut. Don't hold that against me. Walnut. I make a lot of walnut and maple stuff. Here's another example, but not using the CNC. There's no CNC action at all in this one. Straight up tools, epoxy, and walnut. That's the beauty of coasters. They can be almost anything you want them to be. The other thing nice about them, people love getting them. So you can give them as gifts, and that for me is really the best part of so many of the projects that I do. Giving it to somebody and watching the reveal, seeing them enjoy the product, use the product, be excited about it. I get pumped on that. So let's get started on our coasters. First steps you're going to need to take. Well, actually, let's look at our materials list, gentlemen. On the back end there, let's take a look at our materials list. It's real simple. Scrap wood and your tools, anything. Anything you want to apply here. I mean, you're going to have to dimension stuff. We'll do that in just a second. But take a look inside here. To my left in the background, you notice this is the file. There's everything in here. Plywood, hardwood, stuff that's been planed, cut on a 45. I know you have that debate with yourself. I know, because I have it with myself. Is this too small to keep? Is this too thin to keep? What are we going to do with it? Are we going to go to the table saw? Yes, we're going to go to the table saw in just a second. Hang on. So I know you've had that debate. And look what's over here in the file. Oh yeah, last week's project. Leftover dominoes. I play with the other set. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. We'll have an update on some of that and some Mother's Day fun that I made. Let's get to our first steps. Here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to dimension your material, sand and or flatten, decide on your method and design. So first up, you got to dimension your material. So come on over to the table saw. Let's go. Now over here on the table saw, I have a scrap piece of oak that is ready to go. I've measured out, this is a smaller coaster, just under 4 inches. In fact, I'm going to kick it back up to 4 inches because I had an error that took me below 4 inches. So 4 inches is real simple. Turn on our saw. And yeah, it is a saw stop. It's a saw stop. If you don't like your fingers, you don't have a saw stop. But if you like your hands like I do, get this. Here we go. There you go. 4-inch blocks, all set to go. Let's take them back over to the workbench. Come on. Now, safety first in the shop at all times. Let's get these coasters out of the way for a moment. We'll show you some of the other ones we've been working on and how we've been working on them throughout the week getting ready. All right, tools. Again, any. So I'm going to bring the router out because we worked with the router last week. So in some respects here on the show, I'm going to try and keep it within a few boxes for you at times. We'll get a little progression going with a lot of this, so you can kind of go from tool to tool. You're going to see the soldering iron come back too. I have a 45-degree chamfer on here. I like chamfers. I like big chamfers. Here we go. Set that down here. Now the wood's been a little temperamental. This oak has been quite a bit temperamental when it comes to going through the router. Had a couple of tear outs, which is unusual. You got to go kind of slow. So you got dimensioned here. You can leave this one undimensioned. Either way, you're going to want to break the edges. Break the edge just a little bit, and you can do it in a variety of ways. Talking about flattening things. Say, well, I don't have a way to flatten stuff. Yeah, you do. Just go ahead and glue a sheet of sandpaper onto a nice flat piece of MDF, or in this case, I used 1-inch Baltic birch. Terrific stuff, super flat. And you can go ahead and sand. You can break edges. You can go with the grain here on the edges this way. And give your piece a really nice feel. Get on the 45. Pretty easy on you. I like this. I've used this a lot. In fact, I need to replace this piece. You just need to tear it off and put a new one down. So we've got our stuff dimensioned, method and design up next. And I'm going to go apron here for a little bit of the show. Is the apron a good look? No. Is the apron incredibly useful? Yes. Do I have my Delve square at the ready at all times? Sure do. Do I have lots of pens and pencils? I do. I like it. You may not. Make your knife at hand. Don't care. It looks dumb. I agree. But also keeps me clean. Also, I like that part about it. All right, method and design. Now, here's where you can make some choices about your method and design. What are you going to do? Are you going to put it in the CNC? That's pretty easy to do. You can go ahead and decide on that. I did it two ways here. I don't know if we can get a good shot at it because it has such nice grain, but build stuff is just etched in on the outside there with a really small bit and a mana. I think it's a 9-degree, really small bit. Or here's this guy. And that one I carved out. So that one I liked the way it turned out with the epoxy, with the blue epoxy, really beautiful. You can go inside or you can go just around. Now CNC is easy. This way, 45-degree bit we just used on the side to chamfer it. And then I went over to the drill press and used some Forstner bits. So Forstner bits are nice because they make big holes. And then I threw some gold epoxy in there. Who knows? Kind of a 70s look there. I felt like we needed harvest gold and mud brown to go with this coaster, and definitely some mid-century modern influences there. Or let's say you don't have any of that stuff. You don't have Forstner bits. You don't have fancy drill press. None of that. Make yourself a square like I just did. And we're going to make a little template. That was 1945. Here's one that I haven't done yet. That's the Hermosa Beach logo, town not too far away from Redondo Beach. Right next to it, about a mile and a half away. And you can burn inside of that paper. And all you have to do, you could crick cut it, but if you don't have a crick cut, you're going, I don't have a crick cut either. I don't have a silhouette. I do, but you can use Super 77, spray it on there with your printout that you cut out. We'll show you how to do that later in the show, and then we'll finish it up. So your material is dimensioned, and you are off and running on our fast project. That gives us a chance to go over to our Instagram. Let's go to This Week in Insta. Give you some stuff to follow, some other people to check out while you're not watching build stuff here. And eventually I'll get a monitor the other way, so I don't have to turn around on camera. But you know, we're making progress here. Week in Insta. Who we're looking at here? Oh, Fiery Squirrel. We featured him last week with some of his art. Here he is. He's doing a series of bugs. And I really like this. This is the bee. He later painted it. This is a white before, and then he rolled the top of it. Really cool stuff. He's been doing a series of different bugs there. And I believe Fiery Squirrel's in Arkansas. We're going to be talking to him pretty soon. Next up, our guest, who you'll get a chance to hear from in just a moment, Drew Oxford. Been doing some fun stuff out on Instagram himself. Makes a variety of tables for people. And also he has a throwing one. Look at this. He made an axe target, and he also sells plans. So that axe target you see there, you could make that at home, and it's 2x4s and plywood. It's not really that complicated. He's a good guy when it comes to accessible projects for you at home. If you have just a circular saw, jigsaw, whatever it is you started working with. That's what I started with. Circular saw, jigsaw. That was all I had at the very beginning. So Ox in the shop. His name is Drew Oxford. We're going to hear from him in just a second. Let's keep going. I think we have one more. Now, Brandon Levin is going to be on here later. Huma? I can't even say it right. There's too many vowels all the time. Brandon's going to say it later, but he makes some sweet cutting boards. I really like what he does. What else are we doing now, Matt? Tell me. Oh, yeah, make something. I forgot I threw this in here. Oh, David Picciuto. How I love you, David Picciuto. He was trying to choose a graphic pattern for his go-kart that he's going to be racing in the spring, hopefully racing in the spring. I told him, I said, if you're leading, that is socially distant. When you're out in front, nobody can catch you. So you definitely should do that. I think I picked C there at the very bottom. But David Picciuto, one of the bigs out there, one of the giants. He's on the Making It podcast. And then this one is really good. This Game Boy, our guy in the background, Matt Perez, he's going to spend all his monies on this. He wants the Game Boy set up. This thing is about 15.5 pounds, and it is meant to look like a giant Game Boy. You pull out the controllers out of the game cartridge in the back, and you play it. Truly an outstanding effort, and I got to get this right. I put it in our rundown. Guys, can you even name two guys that did it? Yeah, they're working on it in the background, but I really like these projects where you take something and supersize it. They did both laser and scroll saw, both of which I thought were really fun. Check this one out. We'll have a link for it. Ricky Saeda and his buddy Andrew Guevara. And I don't know if that's the great grandson of Che. I'm not sure. We're going to check in with Andrew at some point, I'm sure. But Andrew and Ricky put that one together. Really awesome. And their video editing skills are top shelf. So check those guys out. We've gotten to our interview. We've gotten started on our project. Let's go ahead and check in with Drew Oxford down in Georgia. This is just a couple of nights ago. A little Zoom call, popular thing to do right now. Ox in the shop.
All right, well, Drew Oxford, Ox in the shop. Thanks for sitting down with us here on Kevin Barnett's Build Stuff. Appreciate the time. And I want to start by having you give a 90-second elevator pitch on you and what it is you do. What's your elevator story? And I might run the clock here. Ready? Go.
So my story is I've always made stuff my whole life, always been mechanically inclined. For the last 6 years, I've been doing mostly turning for craft shows. About a year, or this September will be 2 years that I've been full-time all craft shows. I do a lot of stuff on the side. I make pins, bowls. Lately, I've been getting into custom cabinetry. But I always say if the customer wants it made, I can make it.
So craft shows. How many craft shows a year do you do, and how did you start to build that calendar? Why did you start doing craft shows?
My parents' neighbor was a pin turner, made bowls. He actually has the same lathe that I have now. That's where I kind of got it from. He had told me, buy pin kits, come over here, I'll show you how to turn a pin. So I went over there, he showed me how to make a pin, visited her, took her to the pin, and then from that moment on, the idea was craft show. So
okay.
Luckily, I'm in a big area for that. So basically a year and a half later, I was like, I convinced my parents to get me a lathe for birthday, Christmas, and college graduation gift, all rolled into one. So, and that was in December of 2013. My very first craft show was May 2014. Yeah, so that's how I started. 6 craft shows the first year. Next year it went up a little bit more. And for the last 3, I've been doing about 20 to 25 a year.
So how have you been affected by this whole thing? This has to be an awful time period for you then.
Oh yeah, craft shows is not good at the moment. I had one in January. So my busy season, so fingers crossed we get back to normal about September.
Yeah.
So my busy season is September to December. I'm pretty much every single weekend.
You're a Christmas retailer. I know you have a big size shop now, but where did you start out? When did you move out, and how did you do it?
So 2013 is when I started, and I was in a 20 by 22 car garage. It started is that what you're in?
That's it.
So I've done that. I did that for probably 4 years, and we got into this about 2 years ago. Technically, almost 2 years I've been into this shop, and went from a 20 by 20 to. Can I tour in here, or is that too much camera movement?
Do it.
Let's see. So let me take you off of this for a second. So I'll stand in the front. So those back rooms are 2 rooms that are 16 by 12, both of them. And then from this front door, which the camera is basically on it, to that room is 56 feet.
Dang.
And then outside I have a shed where my trailer and everything gets parked.
That is a beautiful space. Look at that. So tell me about your best video. And I don't mean by numbers, and I don't mean by response. I mean, what do you feel is your best video that you've produced? However you grade that.
I really like my skateboard video, one, because that was fun, and I got to ride it around. View-wise, it's definitely nowhere close to being a popular video, but I really liked it. The big wheel was fun. Anything like that. My favorite videos are the out-the-box kind of stuff. So big wheel out of 1 sheet of plywood, I would probably say that's my favorite video, just because it was all, I had a vision in my head, and it was all freehand, and I just created.
Yeah, awesome. More like art than necessarily
exactly
rote execution.
There's the big wheel.
It's looking good. Yeah, I saw that thing in action. I did not make it in time for Workbench Con to come down there, but I saw that thing in action. All right. So best video in terms of numbers, or video that surprised you in terms of numbers that you didn't think was going to do great that did quite well?
So that's both of that is the same video. So right when I guess slab stuff was getting pretty popular, my parents were wanting a walnut slab coffee table. I made the table, or was in the process of making the table, but I knew I needed a router sled to make the table. So I figured, why not video the router sled too, since I got to do it. And the table video has maybe 5,000 views. The sled is, I think, really close to 400,000. So, it's a very simple project, but I guess that's something people search a lot for.
So you fumbled and Auburn scored? Is that what happened?
What? So yeah, I didn't make the plans. I just recently started making plans. So at the time, if I would have known that video would have been doing what it does, I would have definitely put like $5 plans on my website, and you only can speculate how many I could have sold. I wouldn't get rich, but it's a little chunk of money.
And you have a whole bunch of $5 plans up on your website. Tell me about how you've approached that, and how folks you think can, if they have plans, put those up. How well have those done for you? Plans
are definitely, because they're easy, because you put them on your website and you do nothing for them. People buy them. Your system does everything. So I love plans. Everything I try to make now, like I'm actually trying to think of something right now that I can have plans, because I haven't had one in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
But yeah, if you can come up with something easy plans, people will buy.
All right. Before we let you go here, thanks for the time. Tell me about the 5 videos in 5 days. What were the challenges associated with that? How'd you push through, besides not sleeping?
It was fun. It was fun posting one every day. It's just a lot to keep up with, just because the engagement you get, rather than posting a video and a week later, having to do that every day is a fun thing, but it's not something that I could do every week at all. Very stressful.
I love it. I love it. Drew Oxford, thanks for spending the time. We appreciate it. Ox in the Shop, where else can people find you?
Website is oxintheshop.com. I'm Ox in the Shop on Instagram, Facebook. I do have what is this new one the kids are on? TikTok, even though I don't post much on there.
No dancing.
And then on YouTube, obviously, Ox in the Shop. No, I don't do no dancing, but I do, little clips of videos and things that I've made.
All right, right on. Drew, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Oh, no, thanks for having me.
Welcome back inside. That was good stuff with Drew. I think one of the things I took from that was the progression. Here's a guy that's in an 85-foot-long shop with 3 rooms now and really spreading out and kind of spreading his wings as a maker. But that's not where he started. He started in a space like this. And if you look back at Wobie Designs, he started in a space now that's 20 feet long. It's a shipping container that he is working in even still today. And he's responsible for our new camera jig that's happening there. We'll catch up with him eventually. Wherever you are, whatever you have, be it tools or space, start with that. Remember Simon Wood Carving. He's in a van and he's making stuff. So keep that in mind. Let's make some more stuff here. Let's go on with our coasters project, section number 2. And again, the tools you have dictate what you're going to do design-wise. And there's always that debate about, if I buy a new tool, am I buying it just to have it? Or am I buying it for a purpose? However you need to justify it for yourself. But the bottom line is, when you have tools, you will think of those tools and ways to do things. But I'm going to try and keep it fairly simple for you. Yeah, I've gone down the route with the CNC, with the drill press and other things. Let's show you how to do it just for fun. We had a good question from Kyle Walton in Oklahoma. He said, what program do you use for your designs? So to get to this point here, where you have a design that is on the coaster and ready for, in this case, burning. How did I get there? Adobe Illustrator is how I got there. If you don't want to pay for Illustrator, or you don't have a student at home who has Illustrator, Inkscape is the popular vector program that people use. Inkscape or Illustrator are my favorites. I do Photoshop as well. Both of those function for this purpose. So last week when we made dominoes, we used the soldering iron. So you probably already own the soldering iron if you made that project. I've been playing with those all week. So we'll take this here in oak, and we'll go with our soldering iron. I think we can go to our overhead camera here on the workbench, and you just have to do a little tracing. And just take your time here. Stay within the lines. It's a lot like coloring. It's not that difficult. And it gives you a little time to think about other things you should make, how you could make this better, if you like inhaling oak fumes or not, if you feel like you're at a cask burning party or just stuck in a fireplace. So just carefully go ahead and burn inside the lines. I like to come towards myself with this one. And you say, Kevin, well, this is after you have the design. How'd you get the design cut out properly? What'd you use for that? You could use a silhouette. Like I said before, you could use a Cricut. That would make you a vinyl mask that you could put on here and go and burn between by hand. That's one way to do it. Or you could even spray paint. That would be an excellent way to do it, because then you don't have a layer of adhesive, which I do right now on this oak. There's a layer of adhesive there because I sprayed the whole oak and then put on the paper. You wouldn't have that if you use the silhouette. You would just have the vinyl, and then you could spray, and you could just do paint, because paint on oak actually looks pretty cool. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I think I have a little montage of doing it earlier today. Let's go ahead and roll that, and I'll talk over it, give you a little bit more of the process. But there's the start of the burning. So there I'm cutting out all freehand. All you're using is an X-Acto blade, and I'm even doing most of it freehand. You can drag an X-Acto blade with a little bit of practice straight. You don't have to have the ruler. Going around the bird there. And you can see the 1945. I'm going to get a chance to see me burn that in just a moment. And then cut them out. So far we've used a table saw and a router. Router you don't even have to have, but you use a table saw, or you could get someone to dimension wood for you. Now I'm using an X-Acto blade, very accessible at your local craft shop. You probably have one. If you don't, you're not a maker. And I'm sorry, but you're just not. Pair of scissors. A little bit of spray. and you're going to be in business. Let that dry for a couple minutes. It's better if it has a minute to set up. And then I cut off the paper so there wasn't a ton of paper on there for me to file away later. It turns out it came off pretty easy. And then the Hermosa Beach, I put the center of the bee back in. And then you just sit there and be patient, burning. It's like burning the dominoes, same deal. Just sit and think a little while. Don't look at your phone. It's like it's Fast Times at Ridgemont High. No one can talk to each other. You just had to go out in the street and wait for your friend. Hope they were actually on the way. And maybe Mike was going to show up and take you down to the clinic. Maybe he wasn't. Yeah, just watched that with the 18-year-old this week. That was fun. And I did, you see that little spot there? I did burn with the edge of it. Don't make that error. That's like the 6-4 on the dominoes. That's the one error in the whole thing. So pull your paper off. Do a little sanding. And then you get a chance to think about finish. I'm using simple finish in this case, but I'd probably use a poly. It just depends on what you want to do in terms of the material and how you want it to behave when it inevitably does get a little bit of condensation on it. For a lot of these, I don't care if they get some condensation on it. It's great. So there's an overview of the entire process to get to this point. Now here is the coaster. See, I couldn't get that dot off of there. That is a 1945 coaster, and that is the address of one of my relatives, the number address, which I love to use. I like to use address numbers. I like to use longitude, latitude for personal gifts. I like to use cities, initials, any sort of alliterative thing you've come up with for them. Those are all great personalization touches that you can put on these coasters. All right, we are a long ways down the road with these coasters. We'll talk about buy versus DIY, costs involved and other things in just a few minutes, but let's go to our world of makers and get a check-in. I think we're in Chicago and we're in Hawaii. Almost. Right now we're still in Redondo.
Hello, welcome back to Chicago. It's good to see everyone again. Thank you for coming by. I'm not downstairs in the shop because I decided my desk chair needed a little bit of work. This is my love and joy that I brought back from Boston when we lived there. We've since restored it. New leather, new refinished wood arms, and it's a great daily desk chair. But what happens is that this little plate turns, the stem goes down, and every 3 days or so I've got to spend a few minutes moving the chair back that way. So my solution was building this little solid oak block. It's going to be a sandwich to go right here on the stem, and simple as that will keep the chair from going this way, but adds a little bit of rustic charm. So that's nice. It's a great day here and almost summertime. I can feel it in the air. I hope it's nice wherever you are, and until I see you next time, please keep making. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Brandon from Huma Huma Woodworking. I am located in Ewa Beach, Hawaii, which is on the island of Oahu. I've been in business officially for about 2 or 3 years now. You can find me on Instagram at Huma Huma Woodworking and at www.humahumawoodworking.com. I do everything from furniture to cutting boards to plaques and awards. A lot of stuff on CNC, cabinets. I pretty much do it all. I try not to turn any customer down. I try to offer as much as I can. Here's what's in the shop. I got some boards glued up for CNC work, and I just finished this 25-inch by 24-inch by 1.5-inch huge cutting board for another customer of mine who had this marble slab, and I had to make a custom insert with, and added a little bonus for her as well. Hey, thanks for checking me out. Hopefully I'll see you on Instagram.
And Stu for checking in. We appreciate them, the world of makers. Go ahead and check those guys out. Huma Huma Woodworking out in Hawaii. I want to go out and get in his shop maybe next time I'm out in the islands. We want to give you some fun here too on the show throughout the time. And I think right now, I'm thinking about the frustration I had earlier. I tripped over an extension cord, might have thrown a couple of things. I'm convinced that cords have a life. I think they have a life force, and they're out to get you. That if you walked into a garage late at night, a cord might just wrap you up, kind of like a horror film. So sometimes I do have a little bit of a meltdown. Let's go have a meltdown. This is an experiment in live TV right now. Safety first, kids. Here we go. I wonder what'll happen to a measuring tape if we go ahead and melt it down. Let's see. Boy, that's loud. Oh yeah, it has a lifetime warranty. Limited though, a limited lifetime warranty. I'm not sure what that means. Get you some. This is a torture test they didn't have in mind. I kind of wish I was further away. This brush torch definitely scares me. It makes so much damn noise. Hey, we're getting a little bit. It's like a volcano, speaking of Hawaii. Oh, Jesus, that's hot. Oh! Now it's going to hit me. This is way less exciting than I had hoped. I had so much more that I wanted to have happen here. Instead, we just get a red hot table. I think that thing held up way better than I expected. Anyone have a fire extinguisher? Yeah, that's a smoldering mess now. Oh no. I think we're gonna have to take care of that here. That is now a chemical fire. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There it goes. That is the end of that measuring tape. We're going to try and return that maybe at Harbor Freight this week. Yeah. Hopefully that burns down. I don't think we're in danger of setting anyone's house on fire with that one. Let's get a little water, kids. Always good to have a sink in the shop. I guess we know next time to have a little water nearby. Kind of reminds me of high school when I lit some stuff on fire in class that was not supposed to be on fire. Woo! All right, that's safe. Let's go back to what we were doing. Now I feel much better. Goodness, smells terrible though, I'll tell you that. That smells bad in here. Woo! Oh man. All right, so let's get back to our coasters now that we've had a little bit of meltdown. Coasters in general, I said before I love them as gifts because people really enjoy getting them. They're pretty simple to make or as complex to make as you want. One of the things you can do, we did this with some Christmas gifts this year, is put some cork backing on there. This is actually cut with a laser. A friend of mine who has a laser, Cutworks, Eric over there, has a laser, so he cut me some pieces. And I just hot glued those onto the back of wood, and they really look nice. This one's stuck on the front just because it was a leftover. And good thing is cork, it's real cheap. So you end up with a bunch of it for other projects. Good stuff. And buy versus DIY, I don't know how much it applies here with this one because, yeah, you can buy any coaster you want. They have them all over the place. But if you're going to make something with your tools at home that's personalized for the people you know, I think we gave you a fairly simple way to do it. So I would definitely go DIY on this one. In fact, the cost on this is $0 because I own that. You can go ahead and print up some paper, and you probably have some scraps. So your cost breakdown, heck, in this case, $0. That's the way to go. Definitely the way to go. Updates on some projects. I know last week we gave you dominoes, and we've been playing those this week. It has been a week of fun at the pool with the dominoes, but I did go ahead and put them in a box. Check this out. That is a 1/2-inch plywood box with a plexiglass top, not done with CNC. That was done on the table saw by lowering it down, taking about an eighth or so, maybe a little bit less out of the plexi and shaping it perfect. It had a friction fit at first. It doesn't quite have as much friction as it had to start. I would probably make it a little bit tighter next time. And the dominoes themselves, I made 2 extra because if you stack them in piles of 10, remember there's 28 for a set of 6, you end up with an open spot for 2. We're thinking about playing with some wild cards, maybe. But in any case, they stay in there fairly well and they don't fall out easily, which is nice. And I love 1/2-inch ply. I make a lot of stuff out of 1/2-inch ply, particularly a nice Baltic birch because the Baltic birch doesn't have a lot of voids in it, has a really nice feel and look when you go ahead and sand it. It's quite soft, really a material that is accessible, cheap, durable, and easy to work with. Really like 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood. It was also Mother's Day. Here's where I went for Mother's Day, kids. I haven't seen these anywhere. I'm not sure how that shot's going to work out. A little bit. There we go. Thank you, boys. We'll get that up there. These guys are, again, made from scraps. These are made actually with some olive for the centers because I had a hunk of olive sitting around, along with walnut and maple. And there it is. Look, Big Barn Design is where I reside. And I made actually 5 of them, or 6. I think there were 6 of them. There's 4 left now. One for my mother, one for my mother-in-law, as well as one for my wife. And these turned out really nice. It was a lot of fun to make them. I went ahead and put names on them. You can do that if you have a CNC or a laser, or honestly, you could burn them in, as we just did. And that's a win, an easy win. I really like small wins like that, where you come up with an idea, you move quickly on it, and then you get to give it to somebody all in kind of the same day. And of course, charcuterie boards are always going out here at Big Barn Design. I do these from scratch, walnut and maple. That is from the raw wood and then joined, sanded. It feels like a baby's bottom when it gets to you. Food safe oil and really pretty, all hand picked. So I make a lot of these because people enjoy giving them as gifts. It's a nice wedding present. It's a nice present for a birthday. Lots of different things you can do with it. And here's one more thing. Check this out. Go ahead and hit that full page, boys. There is the arrows. There are the arrows. Nice English by me. I also like taking something normal and elevating a little bit. Those of you who don't have fruit trees won't know that these are fruit tree supports. When they're laden with fruit, those individual limbs, you have to prop them up. And so you take a stake, you stick it in the ground, it has a Y on top that you then prop up that particular branch. And I thought, well, it's kind of boring to just have them be black and steel. Let's take it up a notch. Let's make them into an arrow, and let's throw some cool colors on them. These are going to my neighbor tomorrow morning. She actually has a set of 6, 2 8-footers, 2 6-footers, and a pair of 4-footers like this. So we've had these in the background here and went a couple different colors, a couple different patterns, and I couldn't be happier with the way these turned out. Again, fun to finish up some of these projects. Also, the 512 apparel sign. I may have shown you this last week, but it wasn't all the way. So now it's been dyed. We dyed it black, and it's 2-sided, and now it's getting some outdoor coating. So it's getting some 450 seal, and this will be hanging outside a retail shop in about a week's time. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch that thing go out in front of their very first retail shop up outside the Tacoma area in Washington. Yeah, I'll throw this down. We'll get a little overhead shot. How about right there? A little further? A little further. And to my left. Yes, thank you, boys. I want to thank Matt and Josh for producing today's show in the background. Oh, yeah, it was close. It was close. That's on me. Let's get that off the workbench there. If you have a recommendation for anything you want us to build here on the show, let me know. Go ahead and hit me up on Instagram. Big Barn Design is where I reside, and I have Instagram posts I just put up that is the coasters that have been featured on this show today. But if you have an idea for something that could be built, you want to see built, could be accessible for people, fun home projects for kids, since we have a lot of that going on right now, go ahead and check that out. Big Barn Design on Instagram. Did we show it? I'll get a monitor. I'll get a monitor. Yeah, let's show the coasters there. There they are. So go ahead and check out Big Barn Design on Instagram. And make sure you also check out some of our other folks who we've had on today. Ox in the Shop, Drew Oxford. Going over to Yellow Mug, that's Stu at Yellow Mug, and then Brandon at Huma Huma Woodworking out in Hawaii. That's part of what this show is about, is exposing you to new people and new makers out in the world. Hope you've enjoyed episode 2. I've enjoyed the last few weeks learning some new stuff with the hot glue here and making flowers. And I don't know anything else I've learned. Matt keeps asking me in the background, what else have you learned? What else do you know? Yeah, I've learned that I need to make more stuff. I need to make more small stuff. I need to have these wins like this because I really enjoy it, and I've seen it out there. Saw David Picciuto have a sweet win this week with bending plexiglass. And also, I want you to support makers. That's something else I want to see you guys do. Buy their books. This is David Picciuto's book. What made me think of it? He did a whole book on cutting boards, all kinds of different techniques, different tools, different things, far more in-depth than you've ever been on cutting boards before, but it'll give you some great ideas. Support makers by buying their products. Got a lot of stuff floating around here from different people. It's from Jimmy DiResta. He did a combination with a Leatherworks company, and that thing is sharp. That's why I don't have the top taken off it just yet. But support makers out there in the world. Buy their products, buy their shirts, buy their merch. Throw it on the ground right on live TV, whatever you want to do. I want to say thank you to our crew this week. Matt Perez and Josh Lamb, who are in the background, Dave Lamb, helping to prep the show as well. And thank you to everyone who came on the program. Thank you to you, the viewer, for being back and tolerating what probably was an OSHA violation out there in the driveway. I'm going to get about cleaning that up and see how badly the concrete is burned. So until next time, I'm Kevin Barnett. Make sure you make something in the next couple weeks. Get all the way to the end of the show and then jumped over. We'll be back in about 2 weeks with another show, Kevin Barnett's Build Stuff. Thanks for BSing.
This is Kevin Barnett's Build Stuff.
This is what it looks like. It's a mess, frankly.
Not your typical BS.
I've got plans. Let's go through it right now.
Chipped off the inside of the D.
I'm Kevin Barnett. Let's BS.